This is not a drill. I have to make a video that I thought I would never have to make. Since filming this video, Dialga VStar has won regionals, which is crazy. I'm sitting here and everybody thought that Dialga VStar was a meme, that no one could live the dream, but we had a couple believers. Actually, we had a lot of believers. There was so many Dialga VStars in day 2 of this regionals, it's insane. I believe the deck finally warrants its own video. So here we go, guys. Poke Primer for Dialga VStar. Hello everybody and welcome back to Poke Primer, the show where sometimes I, even if it's reluctantly, give you a guide on how to play a deck in the current Pokemon TCG format. Over the last weekend, Dialga VStar blew everybody's minds by winning a tournament. That's kind of crazy, right? A deck that we had always considered a meme ended up freaking winning regionals. That's insane. That's something that, like, it shows how healthy Pokemon TCG as a format is. So in this video, we're gonna go over basically how to play the deck, what makes the deck work, and kind of why it was positioned to win this regionals. I'm gonna go and bother some of my pro player friends to make sure what I'm saying is actually factually correct about the meta before I communicate to you guys. Because the last thing that I want to do is give you guys wrong information. Before we get into the idea of why it did well, let's talk about the deck. The deck revolves around Dialga VStar and using the new Metang that was printed in last set. Metang has the ability Metal Maker. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 4 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic Steel Energy cards you find there to your Pokemon in any way you'd like. Shuffle the other cards and put them on the bottom of your deck. Now let's look at the main card of the deck, Origin Form Dialga VStar. Origin Form Dialga VStar is a V-Star Pokemon with 280 HP that's a Steel type. It does Metal Blast for 1 colorless for 40 plus the amount of Steel Energy attached to this Pokemon. It also does Star Chronos for its V-Star power. For 4 Steel Energy and a colorless energy, you get to use Star Chronos that deals 220 damage and allows you to take an extra turn. Now, I don't know too much if you guys are familiar, but extra turns in Pokemon are huge and barely ever happen. If you're able to get an extra turn as well as get a knockout in the turn that you use the attack with, it can be huge for the game and get a huge prize swing overall. Now guys, Origin Form Dialga VStar is a lot to say, and Origin Form Dialga V is a lot to say. So for the time going forward, we're just gonna call it Dialga V and Dialga VStar. So the cool thing about Dialga VStar and Metang is that not only do you get to add damage to your current attackers if you happen to win that lotto off the top of your deck, you also get to set up another one on your bench if the first one gets knocked out. The cooler thing is that Metang allows you to attach that Steel Energy any way you want. It doesn't even have to be the Steel Pokemon. Got your Radiant Greninja stuck in the active? Attach an energy from Metang to retreat it. Is there a really cool attack that you want to copy with your Mew EX? Attach that energy onto Mew EX. You have so many ways to get out of things as long as you hit your Metangs. Before we look at the list, just understand this list is going to be very simple compared to other lists we've looked at. There's no real trick cards, there's no real super secret tech. With this list, you kind of want to be as consistent as possible. The real advantage of this list is that there's no surprises, you just do the thing. So for Pokemon, we're going to be looking at 17. You're going to be running 4 Beldum. Make sure it's the one with 60 HP. You're going to be running 4 Metang with the Metal Maker ability. You'll be running 3 Origin Form Dialga V. You'll be running 3 Origin Form Dialga VStar. You'll be running 1 Zamazenta, 1 Mew EX, and 1 Radiant Greninja. For trainers, you're going to be running 28. You'll be running 4 Professor's Research, 4 Iono, 3 Boss's Orders, 4 Nest Ball, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Super Rod, 2 Buddy Poffin, 2 Pokegear 3.0, and 1 Prime Catcher. For energy, you're just going to be running 15 Metal Energy. Unlike other lists we see in the past, this deck tends to run a little bit more Pokemon and a bunch more energy. The reason being is that we want to be as consistent as possible. Our goal is to get around 2 to 3 Metangs out, as well as 2 Dialga VStars, or your Radiant Greninja, or your Zamazenta, or your Mew EX, whatever you need at that time. But you want to be consistent. That is the strength of this deck. When you play this list, you want to set up for about 3 Metangs. You can have 2, but you really don't want to play 4 if you can avoid it. You also want to have a Dialga VStar ready to go, as well as another Dialga VStar in the backline just to make sure. But if you don't get another Dialga VStar out right away, understand setting up another one's probably not that bad for you. Because you're able to ramp so efficiently with Metangs, you're going to be able to get to that situation pretty easily. The next thing that I constantly tell people when playing these types of decks is to spread your energy out unless you're going for a knockout this turn. Or maybe you're worried about things not working out 100% correctly. The idea is that you don't want to put a good target on your opponent being able to boss's order something up, because not only do you give them prize cards at that point, but you also knock energy off the board. So play smart with your energy. Make sure that you don't have all in on one Pokemon. The last little advice I'm going to give is watch your bench space. Since you want to have 2 to 3 Metangs out at once, you can constantly get yourself at this point where you cannot play another Metang or set up another Beldum. There's a reason why this deck doesn't play Manaphy or Jirachi, and that's because there's no bench space for it. You need to get multiple Metangs out so that you can ramp onto your Dialga VStars ASAP. A typical bench for this deck is going to look something like 3 Metangs, Dialga VStar, a Dialga VStar in the active, and Radiant Greninja or Mew EX. If a Dialga VStar gets knocked out, assume that you're probably setting up a Zamazenta, but don't put it down until it really can impact the board. So now that we've gone over this deck, I kinda just went, why did this deck get good? What helped this deck get popular? Well, I messaged my buddy who, competes a lot and talks with a lot of pros. He may or may not, be involved with a bigger TCG team. And he basically gave me this as notes. The deck has a very good Charizard matchup, and Charizard is the biggest deck in the format. The other thing is that the deck does really poorly against Lugia, and since Lugia doesn't really see as much play nowadays, this deck was able to take off. Also, not just that, but Metang being in the deck has made the deck super consistent. So as long as you're playing to your advantages, which is Metangs onto Dialga VStars, and you're also playing smartly, this deck can perform super well. I'm going to give advice for newer players, but also towards veteran players too. Because this deck is so consistent, you can use it to practice prize checking and deck checking for what cards are left in your deck and what are in your prizes. A real good place to start with this is to look at your energy. You have 15 energy in the deck, so subtract any that you have in your hand and any that are left in the deck when you go to Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, or just search through your deck and see if you prized any. You can continue this with your other key pieces as well, such as your Beldum, Metangs, Dialga Vs, and Dialga V-Stars. Your plans should change based on what you prized. It's easier to find out early when you search rather than later on when you're looking specifically for it. If you want to step up your game, understanding what you have prized is huge. Overall, I think Metang Dialga V-Star is a very fun deck. It's very consistent, and if you play it well, it'll be very rewarding. It is no longer in that meme territory, and I think you can play it online as well as bring it to a regionals. The deck is very straightforward in what you're trying to do and can still have some very cool plays. It's what we consider a low skill floor with a mid skill ceiling. Are you looking to play Dialga Metang? Are you playing it at a regionals or your local cup or your challenge? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this type of video, feel free to give it a like. If you didn't like it, maybe give it a dislike. And also, if you're not subbed to the channel, I encourage you to sub, where we're going to be doing a bunch more videos soon. Thanks, and have a great day.